All right, so tonight our special guest is Isaac Meek. Isaac is the founder and owner of Five Daughters Bakery. Isaac and his wife, Stephanie, started the bakery in 2015 and saw tremendous success within the first year of opening. He's not only an amazing entrepreneur and leader, but he's also the father of five daughters to be exact. Please welcome Isaac Meek. Isaac, welcome to After Church.
Thank you for having me.
This setting feels familiar. I've been here before.
This is my house.
This is your house. This is my brother-in-law, by the way. But he is also an amazing businessman. You are the owner of Five Daughters Bakery.
I'm one of the owners, along with your sister.
Along with my sister.
And a couple other friends, but yeah.
Well, how about we do some rapid questions really quick? All right, ready?
Yes.
Favorite band?
Radiohead.
Favorite thing to bake?
Biscuits.
Are you an introvert or extrovert?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Favorite TV show?
Arrested Development, or The Good Place, or The Simpsons.
What was your first job?
Well, my first job was going door to door for a in-home water filtration company, and I would ask people if they wanted to have somebody come to their house talk about water filtration. And it was hot.
You're a water boy.
I was a water boy. I did that for 2 weeks when I was 13. And my first real job was Chick-fil-A.
Oh yeah, you're a manager at Chick-fil-A.
No, never a manager.
Oh.
I just worked there for forever.
How long have you been married?
I better get this right? We've been married 15 years, and I know that because we didn't get to take a 15-year anniversary trip because of Corona.
Oh, boo.
I know, so we'll make it up.
You have 5 kids, what are all their names?
Dylan Elise is our oldest, Lucy Jane is our next, Margaret Claire, Evangeline Ruth, and our youngest is Constance Quinn.
Where are you originally from?
I'm from Nashville. I was born at a place called Baptist Hospital, which is now called St. Thomas. And I grew up in Nashville until I was 5. I say Nashville, I grew up in Antioch. Mm-hmm. And then my family moved to Zimbabwe, and then I came back home in the 90s and have lived here ever since.
Right. Yeah, how long were you in Zimbabwe?
About 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this is our first themed episode I'm excited about. It's called Business and Kingdom. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about Five Daughters Bakery?
Five Daughters Bakery is a delicious donut shop where you should all eat donuts. We make a lot of kinds of donuts, but the kind that we're the most famous for is our 100-layer donut, which is a croissant donut. And it is, well, I say it is. We've had over 400 types, so it is a bit loaded, but they usually are the most delicious, filled, glazed, or frosted treats on earth.
And how many locations are there?
Currently we have 4 locations in Nashville and 2 locations in Atlanta.
And how long have you been going?
This is our 5th year.
5th year, and there's
5 years, 5 daughters.
5 years, 5 daughters, not 5 locations.
No, 6 locations.
6 locations.
Yeah, six-ish locations.
I guess you need to have a 6th baby. Just
I know, that's what we need, so that they can each get one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite stories is how you started the business, how you started the bakery. So could you just tell people who are watching why the bakery, why donuts, why did you start all this?
So we started all this in 2015, and my wife loves to say, and she's entirely true, that it was a sonship story, kind of from the very beginning. I never baked, I never did anything like that until we got married. And when we got married, I kind of baked out of necessity because we were poor and we needed cakes and cupcakes and things like that. And I learned that I loved doing it. And in 2014, before we started the bakery, we were going through a lot in our marriage. We were going through a lot of things, and we both kind of came to the conclusion that we needed to change. And I assumed that a change just meant a change of job place, but not actual occupation.
What was your job at the time?
I was an accountant, which they do all right. Yeah. They provide for their families usually. And so I was an accountant, and I thought, okay, I'm going to just apply to companies that are Christian companies that would be a better environment for me and more conducive to our family. And I remember I filled out like my first, or I'd written my first letter to a business owner that I knew. I was about to email it off to him. And Stephanie, my wife, walks in the door and she goes, "Hey, what does God say you should do?" And I got super angry. I'm a slow mover. And getting me to that point where I was willing to quit my job of 10 years that I had all this built up in, so that I would even do anything different was a big stretch for me. And I remember getting so angry with her. And I was just like, "God doesn't care. He just wants me to provide for you." and that was, that was my response. And she was like, okay. She closed the door. She's like, "I'm just gonna leave you alone." And I just sat there staring at the computer, and I threw up a prayer. I wasn't praying, but God was listening. And I just said, "God, what do you say I should do?" Literally parroting her words. And as soon as I said it, I truly felt like I heard God speak to me. It was one of 2 times in my life that I've really heard God. And I heard him say that I could bake and I could do music, which were my 2 favorite things to do, but 2 things that I never made the kind of money that you need to make to have a family. At the time we had 4 kids and we lived in Franklin. It was I was okay, I think I heard you say bake and do music, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to tell Stephanie this and she's going to laugh at me. And then I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to send this and stay an accountant. And so I went out of the room and I told Steph, I said, I did pray, all spiritual. I did pray. And I feel like I heard God say that I could bake and do music. And as soon as I said that, she just looks at me and she goes, "Great, let's do that." And it was this weight lifted off my shoulders. And I was like, "What? We're going to do something that I love to do? God, how's that even going to be? I don't know anything about anything." 2 months later, we'd made a little businessy idea, and we were gonna do cupcakes, and we were gonna sell them to wedding planners. And I was still at my job, but we were out to dinner with friends on New Year's Eve, and one of the guys at the table goes, "What's God got new for 2015?" And we were like, "Well, Isaac's actually gonna quit his job, and we're gonna do cupcakes for weddings." And there was only us, one other couple, and another couple. And that guy was like, "Yeah, do it." And the other guy at the table was like, "You shouldn't do that." And we were both like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I've had your cupcakes. They are the best that I've had. I agree, they're delicious, but everybody's got their favorite cupcake already." He's like, "You know what they don't have is an amazing donut. We don't have an amazing donut in Nashville. We don't have gourmet donuts." He was like, "If you could make a gourmet donut," and he was like, more specifically, "if you could make a croissant donut, I think you'd crush it." And I was like, "I can do that." I'd never made a donut in my life. I never even thought about making a donut in my life. I was like, "I can do that." And so I went home and I researched and I was like, "I'm going to try to do this." And I watched a million videos, which at the time nobody was making croissant donuts. But there are plenty of croissant videos and donut videos. And I prayed and I asked God and I was like, "I'm just going to do what I think is right. And whatever you tell me." And our friends who were at the table who were like, "What's new for 2015? We're like, "Hey, when can we come over for donuts? When can we come over for donuts?" Literally every day. And so by the 8th day of the year, I was like, "Babe, just tell them that they can come this weekend."
Wait, so this was 8 days after you guys just had dinner?
Yeah. I was like, "Just tell them they can come this weekend and I'll make donuts. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll try." And I did, and they were amazing. It was so much fun. Everything about it brought life to me, just the whole process and then enjoying eating them and watching people eat them. I loved everything about it. And my amazing wife took photos of them and put them on Instagram. And within an hour, a friend of ours who owns a coffee shop was calling her going, "Did Isaac make those?" And she was like, "Yeah." And he goes, can he make them for us? And we're like, yeah, sure, why not? And so it's a process to make a croissant dough donut. It takes us 4 days, but back then it took 3 days. We're like, yeah, like 3 days from now we'll do a dozen donuts for you guys. And so 3 days later we delivered them a dozen donuts, and him and one other guy that worked there ate all of them. And they were like, can you make us more? But and so I brought them these donuts the next day because I was prepping. And they sold out. And it was the first day they'd ever sold out of anything in their shop, which their shop wasn't big yet by any means. But it definitely started something for us. And it's been amazing. I know this is kind of a long story, and it can be even longer. But, God, multiple times along the path, kept meeting us and kept opening the doors for us. When we were like, you know what, God, we got it. He would stop us. He would be like, no, you don't. You don't know what you're doing at all. And as soon as we would just rest and be like, okay, God, like, this is like, obviously you're the one who's like pulling the strings and doing the things. And so we're just going to let you open the doors. As soon as we would say that, he would be like, great, biggest coffee shop in Nashville. Great, like, open invitation to actually quit your job with like everything that, like, all the money that you make now, like, displaced 1-to-1.
Wow.
Which was amazing. Like, I was able to quit my job. I quit in March, but I gave them leeway to keep me as long as they needed, because I'd been there for 10 years and I was the only person in my position. And so they kept me until April 15th. But I mean, I was able to quit, and like, my family didn't have to like suffer or anything like that. It was amazing.
So much grace on it.
Yeah, it was definitely like from the get-go, God. And we've got story after story of in a longer format interview, when we tell the stories to people, they're like, nobody gets that. Nobody gets, free rent. I didn't say we got free rent, but we did get free rent in some places. Like, nobody gets that. Nobody gets these locations. Nobody gets this kind of favor. And it's like, nobody does. Like, and it's not because of me. It was because of God. It was because God was showing me his great love for me.
Wow.
I'd suffered some things previous in life and didn't really understand how much God loved me. And as a business owner, that's made it a lot easier for me to manage our business from that same point of view. Every boss I think I ever had before I became my boss, God's my boss, before that, held their employees like this. And like, I recognized, in this process, that I didn't want to be that type of boss. And so holding everyone who works for us like this, and just saying, when God opens a door for you and in your life, like, I want to be here to celebrate you. Even if you're the only person that does the job that you do, like, I'm not going to worry about that, because God's provided for me so many times that I know that he'll take care of me. Like, I want to just champion you. And so that creates a culture within the culture of the Five Daughters Bakery businesses that allows people to feel more free.
So like, how would you describe the impact that it's had on your relationship with him?
So the impact that it's had on me and my relationship with the Lord, I don't want to say, I mean, I've been a Christian my whole life. Like, I was a 6th generation pastor's son. And I did get, baptized when I was 5, and then felt convicted when I was like 12 and got rededicated, and probably gave my life to the Lord multiple times as a teenager because of all the sin that I felt so ashamed about. But at the same time, like, I feel like I've known the Lord my whole life, or known of the Lord my whole life. And even went through a period where Stephanie and I were youth pastors. It's kind of like, I don't know, like, it's kind of like discovering that the house that you live in has like an upstairs after living there for like forever. And you're like, oh, there's more. And I kind of reached this place in my adult life with the Lord where I kind of thought, like, I know that like God's going to have surprises for me when I go to heaven, but like, this is who God is. And when the bakery happened and this business happened this way, and God taught me the lessons that he's taught through just like his divine grace, and through humility, and through the trials and all of it, But as all that's happened, I've learned that there was a whole different dimension to my relationship with God that I didn't really understand. Like I knew it was there. It's like, you're God's son. Sure. Duh. But no, like you're God's son, was a totally different thing. And I don't know if that can be taught. Maybe it can be taught, but really I'd been trying to be taught that for a long time, but until I experienced it, it wasn't real. It wasn't like really real for me. And so it definitely took my relationship with the Lord to the next level, to be so cliche. Whereas before I was like, God is like my earthly father, who's like pleased and loves me and proud of me, but also I should do these things for him, and like through this all, it was like, God is even better than my earthly father. And I have a great earthly father, but like, he's even better. Like he really knows me better than I know me, and trusting him is the best choice that I can make.
So now you kind of just get to be home and you get to be with your family as well as run a business.
I get to do a lot more things. I have a lot more freedom. When I think back to when I worked a 9-to-5 job in Nashville, which means you're actually leaving your house at 8 and getting home at 6 or 6:30. When I think back to those times, like I'm just so thankful now, because it's true. I can watch my daughter like be at her first horse lesson or all of her horse lessons, and I can decide what flavors of donuts I want to eat, and I can help my wife and be a part of the things. And I mean that for me in many ways is more of a personal choice as opposed to like what's best for the business,
Right.
In a sense. I think that a lot of business owners allow themselves to get very wrapped up in their business. And so owning a business is actually more destructive in their personal life than productive. And so, I think that because I witnessed that a few times in my life, it's given me a lot of, It's given me a lot of perspective so that I can create the proper boundaries and always try to err on the side of family over business, people over money, and that's one of the things that we said very early on. We always said people over donuts, and we still say that, people over donuts, because in the beginning of times, we weren't great at making donuts. We were decent at it, but we weren't great at it. And we would sell out. We would sell out at like 11 in the morning. And we'd be like, I'm sorry, but we all worked all night and all day, and this is all we could make. And our customers would love us, but also be really angry, like really angry. And there was a lot of pressure on us to try to make more. Like, make more. Why can't you make more? Why can't you hire more? Why can't you make more money? And tempering that and allowing God to walk us through that, but with the understanding from the very beginning to this moment in time that people matter more than donuts, has allowed us to keep good relationships with a lot of people who've worked with us. Not everybody, but most people feel loved when they work with us. Right. And I hope that they do, and also it's kept me from allowing a place of greed or power or influence to sort of take over, because let's be honest, if you're kind of at the top of the game, which in Nashville we are, and honestly nationally we're pretty close to the top of the game, there's a strong how do you get to the very top? And a lot of people wreck their lives to get to the very top, and Stephanie and I would rather just walk with the Lord, and just trust that every door that He's opening, and every door He's closing, and He knows us better than we know ourselves. Yeah. And so, as a business, that's what we strive for, and as a family.
So, how would you encourage people who are either business owners or they're very involved in their job to balance that work and family life well? Sure.
We, before we were business owners, we were youth pastors, and we were heavily influenced by a teacher named Andy Stanley, who you may have talked about or you may be going to talk about.
I haven't yet.
Haven't yet.
But I love him.
He comes up a lot because he has a lot of wisdom. He's a pastor in Atlanta, and he does a podcast. He does a few podcasts, but he does a podcast on leadership. And one of the early podcasts that we heard was about training up leaders underneath you and, kind of working yourself into your job. Like you start by carrying lots of jobs. The analogy that I always remember that he gave was, if this is the organization and there's 100 jobs, but there's only 10 employees, well, every employee's probably got 10 jobs. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you want to let go of the things that you're not good at. And we took that in youth ministry and used that. And we honestly just picked up right where we left off when we started the bakery. When we started, like, it wasn't like this. Like, I worked really hard. For the first year. I never slept more than 3 hours at a time because I was working. Stephanie was working with me. The kids even helped out and worked. Like, we worked really hard, and it was very fulfilling. But at the same time, the whole time, we knew that we were building and giving things away to people as we built. And I don't remember when the exact transition came. I think for us, it was in roughly year 3 when I realized I didn't make any of those donuts. And I was like, whoa. Like, our donuts are a 4-day process. So there's like multiple steps and stages. And it was like, I didn't do any of that, but I kind of did it all because I trained up these people. And I think a lot of business owners get stuck carrying too many of the jobs. And part of that is a fear that the job's not going to be done as well as they did it, which is a very real thing. I would feel that. I'd be like, I care about these donuts way more than these people care about these donuts. And that's one of the things that as you let go, you realize is true and you can fix it.
Right.
Like, not only do they not care about them as much as me, they're actually able to do them better than me because they can be trained to do them better and have better skills because they're focused on this one job as opposed to me focused on these 9 other jobs.
Right.